Assalamu alaikum and hello to everyone who's watching me, Tawseek Khader. I sometimes read and do research and come up with statistics and information like this percentage of women in Pakistan are deficient on iron and vitamins, and this percentage of Pakistani children are stunted, and stunting does this to your brain and your health, and we need to do a lot of policy making, regulation, budgetary allocations, and actual interventions. Sometimes these sentences, these things are too jargonized for me, and I say, all right, if you have to do it. But sometimes when I read something like this, that, hey, malnutrition is directly affecting economy of Pakistan, that is what makes me attentive. And I say, how? How can malnutrition affect economy of Pakistan? Yes, it can affect our children and women. That's understandable. And these are the things that make me worried about this beautiful country, Pakistan. And these are the things that make me come up with programs and sittings like this, ladies and gentlemen. That is what actually is going to happen today, because today Micronutrient Initiative and I bring to you 3 distinguished guests, and we are actually going to talk about these things. Is this not a breaking news? To me it is. So let's try to find out. Today I have with me in the studios Mr. Joel Spicer, who is the CEO and President of Micronutrient Initiative. Joel, welcome to Pakistan, welcome to my show. With Joel sitting is Dr. Nasir Muhammad Nizamani. He's the Director of Micronutrient Initiative. Dr. Nizamani, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Abdul Basir Achakzai, who's the Director of Nutrition, Ministry of National Health Services, Regulation and Coordination. Dr. Achakzai, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Joel, I would like to start from you. What is the nutrition situation globally at the moment? And how do you see Pakistan in that global environment, global situation of nutrition, or if you want to call it malnutrition?
Globally, just to give you a sense of the burden, we have a problem which is one of humanity's longest running wars. And I feel like where the world is right now, we're at a tipping point where we can either determine to put the world on a path to ending malnutrition, or whether it will actually be the force that undermines our dreams and ambitions, not only in Pakistan, but around the world. So to give you an illustration of the magnitude, 2 billion people suffer from micronutrient malnutrition in the world. That's
2 billion?
2 billion, let's say, on the people who are the drivers of development of tomorrow. So on women and girls. 500 million women around the world suffer from anemia, for example. And yet 1 billion of them have a form of malnutrition. So 1 out of every 3 women in the world suffers malnutrition. When we come to children, 1 out of every 4 children in the world is stunted. That means they are too short for their age, and they will never have the potential that a well-nourished child has. In Pakistan, it comes to almost 1 out of every 2 children that are stunted. So the burden is
about 50%.
Yeah. And when you talk about how an economy can grow, and I know we'll probably come back to that, when the future leaders and the future workers of your country are children, the stunted children of today is a stunted economy tomorrow, and that's something we need to keep in mind.
We'll come back to that a bit later. Dr. Nasir, what actually happens to a human body, like your brain and your physiology? What happens when we say one is malnourished? What is actually happening?
If you look at malnutrition, it comes in different forms and shapes. For example, he mentioned stunting and wasting, which is clear, visible, short height or low weight. That is obvious, that you does not get energy, you cannot move around, people cannot work in the fields, for example, in the agriculture, children cannot concentrate on their studies, and they have low energy and they cannot play. But then there's another form of malnutrition, which your weight and height might be right, but you are suffering from what we call micronutrient deficiency, which is called hidden hunger.
Why is it called hidden hunger? Like, it's just a question of curiosity.
Yeah, it's hidden hunger because if you describe hunger, you means you have to fill your stomach.
Uh-huh.
You don't feel like feeling of hunger because you have eaten something which has filled your stomach, but it has not filled up the hunger of your body, your brain, your bones, for example. The requirement are not met, but apparently you feel that you have enough, because sometimes they call you get enough energy through your food, but you don't get enough nutrient through your food. In Pakistan, we can see why we have low literacy rate. People always go and start blaming education ministry, education department, not enough schools, not enough teachers. But we have not looked at the situation, why there are so many dropouts. Why children do not want to study after grade 5 or 6, because even if they want to, they don't have mental and physical energy and capacity to pursue their career.
If I could just jump in on something that was very important that Dr. Nasir said, and that is that micronutrients are essential for creating a strong immune system within a human being. And as we all know, the cornerstone of any health system is the strength of the immune system of the people within it. And therefore, if we do not invest, and it's actually quite cheap to do so, in helping the individuals have a strong immune system, we pay later because the health system's costs are stratospheric.
So, Dr. Achakzai, these are scary figures. And also, Joel just mentioned that sometimes it's not really a matter of a lot of money that you... What is the government of Pakistan, what kind of initiatives is the government taking or intending to take?
It is great that we are talking about nutrition. Nutrition is a cross-cutting issue, as I always say, that it is a multi-sectoral issue as well. In one instance, for example, if it relates only to a food which you take on daily basis, this is one aspect. And second aspect is that how the government is going to make the people realize that what actually the correct nutrition is. Correct nutrition may include, for example, that having by all means vitamins, minerals, or carbohydrates, fats. And secondly, there are certain organizations who are working in Pakistan. We, the Ministry of National Health Services Regulation and Coordination in all provinces, we are here to provide them basically technical support. We are here basically to provide them a platform where all these stakeholders, all the nutrition partners should come and sit together. And there are expertise of various organizations in various aspects of the nutrition. We are providing that opportunities to the people.
We'll take a short break, ladies and gentlemen. Here we'll definitely come back and talk about supplementation and fortification. And also one point that I would like to take up in the next part of the conversation is how is malnutrition directly affecting an economy, or how malnutrition becomes bad economy later in the years to come. So stay with me, we'll be right back. Hello, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about how nutrition is directly proportionate with the economy. This sounds really, really weird for a layman like me. Joel, how would you elaborate that?
We have to invest in gray matter infrastructure. That is investments in the most precious resource that is within a country, and that is the children. Globally, we lose 3.5 trillion with a T dollars every year because of undernutrition. We lose that from lost productivity, additional health systems costs. It is staggering. This is a problem that is much cheaper to fix than to allow to continue. Bill Gates, working with the World Bank, released several months ago a costing. What would it cost globally to reach these global nutrition targets we've all signed up for in the Sustainable Development Goals?
And how much is that?
Answer for nutrition, we need to mobilize an additional $7 billion a year, up to 2030. And it sounds like a lot, but if you put it in perspective, the world spends $14.5 billion a day.
A day?
On energy subsidies. So this is not a question of money. This is a question of political will. Malnutrition is a political choice. And when it comes to the amount of investment we need to make, I think in Pakistan, the data I've heard from the team here is Pakistan loses about 3% of its GDP every year.
Talking of political motivation and political will, you've been in Pakistan last week and you met some political people, people who are making decisions. How has been the visit generally, and what is your impression about the political will here?
I have to say it's extraordinarily positive. I was very fortunate to be able to meet with the Minister of Planning, the Minister of Health, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and several members of the National Assembly as well, and provincial ministers. And so for me, my question was, how serious are you about malnutrition? How much do you know? And I was staggered by the level of knowledge, the level of concern, the level of willingness to change the status quo. I think other countries could be envious of that. The key question in my mind, and the key issue for anything like that, is how do we effectively translate political will into action for the people we exist to serve? That is the critical question.
Dr. Nasir, what is the answer? I mean, it seems to be a very simple question, but I think the answer is not easy. How do we translate political will into action?
I think we can at least be a little bit optimistic that at least we have crossed one barrier, that is getting political commitment. Yeah. Politicians realizing that there is an issue. But then we have to translate into action, and which means we have to continue to reaching out to them, to work with them. Once they start relating to it, their own people or own area or themselves, then they will make action. But I think for people like us who call ourselves professionals in nutrition, we should give them clear-cut technical guidance and also suggest to them the interventions, like the minerals and vitamins that we talked about, we are deficient, until they become part of our regular diet and people can afford fruits and all kinds of vegetables, we can supplement them. For example, there is already a program of vitamin A supplementation. And then there is another strategy which we call fortification, which means we include these micronutrients in the things that we eat. And I can give you two examples. One which we have already done successfully in Pakistan, which is fortification of table salt with iodine. So salt is now fully iodized. It's a global success story of Pakistan. If you just compare Pakistan, what it has achieved in last 10 years. The other fortification example is fortification of wheat flour with iron and folic acid, fortification of ghee and oil with vitamin A and D. These are simple technologies. We just need a will and also some resources to start doing it. So these are different levels of intervention.
Dr. Achakzai, Micronutrient Initiative is working very closely with you guys. How do you see their interaction, intervention, and the partnership?
We have a very great relationship with MI, and since nutrition, as I said, is a multi-sectoral and interdepartmental, interministerial issue which should be taken all together by all the stakeholders. Currently, the Government of Pakistan with Micronutrient Initiative, we have a very good relationship, and we have on one page by addressing the hidden hunger in Pakistan.
Joel, what would you like to add to Micronutrient Initiative's work in Pakistan and also global perspective?
Pakistan is a critical country for us, and there are three things that I'm excited about when I think about what happens next. And Dr. Basir has reminded me of one important thing, and that's that there are partners out there, and with greater coordination we get greater efficiency too. But there are two things in terms of the programmatic side, and the reason for my visit to Pakistan was the launch of the food fortification program. And basically, as we've talked about before, and Dr. Basir has mentioned, the issue of fortification with this program, which is funded by the UK government, will help us reach 60% of the population with fortified wheat flour, and almost 70% of the population with fortified oil and ghee. So you don't normally get population level results like that, and over the next 5 years, we hope that will help reduce anemia in Pakistan by 1/3 in women and children, and vitamin A deficiency by more than 25%. So I'm really optimistic. This is a critical sign of...
That sounds ambitious.
It is ambitious, but it's also possible because of what Dr. Achakzai said, the need to coordinate partners to work across, bring in industry as well, So often they're kind of left to their own devices, but they're part of the solution now, as well as community and as well as people in terms of educating consumers to improve demand. The other thing that I'm excited about, which is yet to come, is the fact that malnutrition hits women and girls so hard, particularly adolescent girls as well, who are often neglected, means we are thinking about, in our conversations with government and partners, how we can look at an initiative specifically targeting malnutrition in women. And it's called Right Start. And we will be we'll be thinking about launching it next year. So we're trying to get other people, including government, on board with this focus for next year, and that's something that I'm really excited about. That will work in tandem with the food fortification project, and I hope working with government generate real results.
May I add one thing more?
Yes.
50% of malnutrition could be corrected by healthy behaviors among the families, among the people.
Mm-hmm.
So these sort of activities has been supported by MI, and very currently they have a lot of conversation with the government functionaries, and we are happy that the people across the board, across the country, at provincial level, at national level, they are now very much aware of doing something at their own level. Nutrition is a cross-cutting issue, as I said earlier.
Absolutely. Targets are ambitious, but milestones are achievable. I take a break now, but when I come back, in the last part of my conversation, I would like to know that to achieve these milestones, to get to these ambitious targets, what are the expectations of MI from the government, and what are the expectations of the government from the MI? Stay with me. I'll be right back. Welcome back, friends. Today we are in the Micronutrient Initiative's Conversation Lounge and talking about the problem of malnutrition and the effects it is having and it is going to have in future on our future generations, meaning on our future economy, on our future health, children who are going to grow up, be the decision makers of this country. So this is the time to invest in this area. Things look possible, Dr. Achakzai. Things look ambitious but doable, achievable. But for doing that, what do you, as in the government of Pakistan, expect from the Micronutrient Initiative?
Currently, I am very much satisfied. We have made our mind by saying this, that we have policies at provincial level and at federal level as well. We have guidelines, national guidelines. So for each and every policy or the point of strategic approaches, we have certain partners in an organization who can support us. Like for example, MI support would be required for our young girls, for women health in the coming days, apart from the micronutrient other initiatives, which is perfectly all right. So we need to address those as a complementary project, and our expectation from MI is that they should not only jump in, rather they should bring along with them other partners as well.
Joel Spicer, what would you like to say on this, and what is your expectation from the government?
I completely agree with Dr. Achakzai, and the purpose of MI, what drives us, is to do the greatest good for the people we serve. In terms of what my expectations of government are, earlier when we were talking about financing, and I noted that the global cost was an additional $7 billion a year. The paper also said where the money should be coming from. And it noted that donors only give 1% of overseas development assistance to nutrition of all the money they give. So it called out donors and said they need to scale up. But it also very clearly said that to solve this problem, there needs to be an increase in domestic resources to fight this problem too. There is so much that is inspiring about Pakistan, but we need to take those examples out to the world so they see them too. And when there are good news stories and stories of leadership, and when we are able to say Pakistan is putting a significant increase in its own investment to reach the most vulnerable, then I think we're going to see the international community pick on this story and say, this is good. We wish other countries would copy the Pakistan model. And that's the dream I have. I hope we can get there together.
Dr. Nasir, what can be other areas of intervention?
I will just pick up his point. What he said, we need to increase the domestic resources. It does not mean we are looking at government only. We have to look what is available in the country. You know, globally there is a movement called SUN, Scaling Up Nutrition. And Pakistan has also joined that movement 2 or 3 years ago. And what does it mean? Under that movement, we have actually established networks. One is called Civil Society Network, which we have more than 100 members so far. And then we have a network, we call it Academia and Research Network. And then we are also working on a network which is called Business Network. We have been able to establish them, but now we need to work with them to identify, tap in those domestic resources which could be available from corporate sector, from our private industry. Academia and research should focus on research which is relevant to Pakistan's issue, not just academic research to get your PhD degree. These are kind of long-term intervention as opposed to the immediate short-term that we discussed earlier.
All right, gentlemen, I have a question for all three of you right in the end, starting from Dr. Achazai, you. Very concisely, very shortly, what is one or two things that you think really are needed to be done? I mean, what next?
I am happy that there is a political commitment. If there is some consensus in all Pakistan for legislation and compulsory legislation for fortification, so it will be an agent for change.
So legislation is your take. What next, Dr.
I think
Asir?
for me, we want to make nutrition a political neutral issue. We should, whether it is in government or opposition, all politicians and parliamentarians, we need to work with them and make them realize that the nutrition should be their top priority. As we have been discussing, the next election, whenever that happens in Pakistan, nutrition should be the top on the manifesto of all the parties. I think that is what we should try.
That's possible?
We have to work towards it. We have to work towards it. Once that is done, then I think we can get more out of them.
Right. Joan, what next?
Malnutrition is an emergency. It's at crisis levels in Pakistan. It needs a response commensurate with the scale of that crisis. And I think we've got a precious moment in front of us because we have this large-scale food fortification program as a base. We have additional partners that are here that can be coordinated by government. We have additional resources that may be coming in. But if we don't seize this moment, we will lose the opportunity to really turn the tide. There are examples from around the world, not enough, but they do exist, of countries that have put in an extraordinary effort and they've cut their stunting rates in half in 7 years. And so we need to look at what they've done. We need to capitalize on this massive political will and leadership moment, and we need to make it real for the people that need us to move this into action.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for sparing time and giving input. And something interesting that came up was that these goals and targets are possible, they're doable, they're achievable. But ladies and gentlemen, all this is achievable by putting this thing on the agenda of everyone. We always talk about this should be the political agenda. Why political agenda only? This should be our masjid, mosque imams agenda. This should be our media's agenda. This should be our academia's agenda. This should be the civil society's agenda. This should be the philanthropist's agenda. This should be the mother's agenda. This should be the father's agenda. We as a society should demand for healthy, nutrient diet. We should be concerned about children not to suffer from hidden hunger. That is my click of the day to take back home. I wish you a prosperous and healthy life and healthy diet. Bye-bye.